There's one survivor of the Battle of Waterloo, and it's an ancient chestnut tree. Musket balls are still embedded in its long-dead neighbour. They face the battlefield on which the Duke of Wellington ended Napoleonic rule. But the French Emperor's downfall 201 years ago really began behind the trees. Hougoumont Farm is where Wellington sent troops to divert the French from his main force.
The French were hoping that if they attacked Hougoumont, Wellington would bring men from other parts of his line and weaken it, and he could put in another attack there. But as it happened, Hougoumont sucked in thousands of French, and the reality was, we think, the reverse of what Napoleon intended.
In a brutal encounter, 2,000 British and Prussians resisted nearly 9 times as many French. Archaeologists now scour the site where 5,500 were killed or wounded. The historical account tells of a single French incursion quickly thwarted.
So you got a French one here, and then that's the British one here.
But musket balls unearthed elsewhere at Hougoumont Farm suggest other French breakthroughs.
There are stories that British historians might have brushed over slightly, and indeed I think the French incursions have been a victim to that, but the archaeology is starting to bring those stories to light again.
The people helping the archaeologists include former Coldstream Guardsman Sean Douglas. He was wounded in Afghanistan in 2014 and has suffered chronic pain ever since.
It takes over your life. You become very withdrawn because you don't want people to see you in absolute agony. And one thing that plays in your head is who's staring at me, who's watching me. But when you're here, you deal with an attack, however long it lasts, and then you just get back up, and everyone's as they were 10 to 15 to an hour ago than you last saw them. And everyone's completely understanding.
A charity project called Waterloo Uncovered involves 20 wounded personnel. Conflict has left some psychologically traumatised. Now they're experiencing an unusual rehabilitation process that involves leading archaeologists.
If you're not careful, when you put it back and then re-excavate it, the more damage you do.
Phil Harding is best known for his appearances in the long-running TV series Time Team.
My trench becomes their trench. It's our trench. Their standards are my standards. I like to think my standards are quite high, and I want to be able to walk away from that trench saying, that's a damn good trench.
We've got the gardener's hut behind.
Ex-soldier Scott Hawkes is a site artist and wants to develop the skill professionally. He was in the Royal Signals before a rock climbing accident confined him to a wheelchair. Despite constant pain and PTSD, the archaeological experience, he says, has been a godsend.
We're trying to picture how the courtyard would have looked like before the battle, what buildings would have been in the courtyard. Yeah, it's just opened a new door to me that, 6 years ago, sat in the army, I would never ever have dreamt of being given this opportunity. So through the negatives of what happened to me, I've got a strong positive now.
The Waterloo Uncovered team say there's more work to be done at Hougoumont Farm. The 2 centuries-old battlefield as a whole could keep them occupied for another decade. Rob Olver, Forces News, Waterloo in Belgium.